Hi, I'm Isaac, 16, and 2 years ago my family decided I was the problem. They didn't sit me down or say it outright. They just started acting like everything bad that happened had my fingerprints on it. We lived in a postcard house, the kind people slow down to admire. Straight-cut lawn, clean bricks, shutters the color of calm. My mom, Clara, called it her safe space. To her, neatness was proof we were doing okay. To me, it felt like living inside a museum that screamed at you if you touched the glass. Dad, Tom, was the type who believed silence solved everything. He traveled half the week for work and hid in his office the rest. If Mom was a hurricane, he was the eye, quiet, but only because he'd already given up fighting the wind. And then there was Ryan, my little brother. 13 going on Saint. Blonde hair, dimples, the kind of kid who could spill juice on a cop and still get a pat on the head. He figured out early that acting afraid of me got him whatever he wanted. Mom bought it every time. I could sneeze too loud and she'd say, "Isaac, stop scaring your brother." Every morning started like roll call in a military camp. Mom's checklist voice echoed from the kitchen. Shoes by the door. Dishes put away. No crumbs on the counter. If she found one, she'd sigh like I'd personally ruined her day. She kept a whiteboard labeled house standards with our names and little green checks or red XS. I was running a deficit. We went to church every Sunday, polished and polite. Ryan held doors for people and called Mom, "Ma'am." I stood there pretending not to hear whispers about how lucky she was to have such well-behaved sons. She'd smile, tight and proud, but she never looked at me. School wasn't better. Teachers called me defensive because I asked questions. I'd get good grades, but not the kind that earned applause, so Mom would say, "You could do better if you applied yourself like Ryan." Ryan applied himself mostly to manipulating oxygen. Our neighbor, Mrs. Heller, played neighborhood spy. She'd water her plants while watching me walk home. Once she told Mom I looked angry. Mom took it as gospel. That night I found my bedroom door open and drawers rifled through. She said she was checking for cigarettes. I didn't smoke, but I did start locking my phone in a shoebox under my bed after that. We had cameras in the living room. For insurance reasons. Door codes Mom changed monthly. She called it responsible parenting. I called it surveillance. The only peace I had was fixing my bike. Grease under the nails, the clean click of gears aligning, machines made sense. They only broke for real reasons. People didn't. Ryan would sit on the porch watching me tighten bolts, pretending we were brothers again. Then he'd say, "Mom said you're not supposed to use her tools." 10 minutes later she'd appear in the doorway like a courtroom bailiff. "What did I tell you about respecting house property?" When Dad left for another business trip, Ryan got promoted to deputy. Mom handed him the family tablet so he could track chores. Translation: spy duties, now digitized. I tried to talk to her once. "It feels like you believe him no matter what he says." She didn't look up. "Then maybe stop giving him reasons to worry." That was it. Conversation over. By Friday the house felt like a loaded spring. Lights too bright. Air too thick. Everyone pretending normal. Ryan humming that fake innocent hum while planning whatever next stunt would make me the villain again. I just didn't know yet that by next week, he'd managed to make it permanent. It started small, the way most disasters do, with a sound you almost ignore. Mom was in her office that Wednesday, prepping slides for a work presentation she wouldn't stop talking about. Her career milestone. She'd been tense for days, pacing, mumbling to herself about deadlines and perfection. Ryan was behind her, helping, which usually meant leaning over her shoulder, pretending to read words he couldn't pronounce. 10 minutes later, I heard a scream so sharp it made my chest lock. "The file's gone! It's gone!" I ran in to find her clutching her laptop like it was bleeding. Ryan was already backing away, hands up like an actor hitting his mark. "Isaac used the computer earlier," he said quickly, too quickly. I hadn't touched it. I opened my mouth, but Mom turned on me before I could breathe. You did this, didn't you? You can't stand to see anyone else succeed. Mom, I didn't. Don't lie to me. Her eyes were wide and glassy. I'd seen that look before, when something small went wrong, but it was never really about that thing. It was about everything. Dad came in halfway through, tie still on, pretending to be calm. Can we not do this right now? She ignored him, still staring at me. You're sabotaging me, I said. Check the history. You'll see. But she didn't check anything. She just slammed the laptop shut and stormed off. Later, I heard her tell Dad autosave had recovered the file. The trash folder showed the deleted version came from Ryan's account. She never mentioned it. Dinner that night was theater. Ryan sat across from me, kicking my leg under the table, whispering, Maybe don't touch Mom's stuff next time. Stop, I said quietly. Mom looked up instantly. Don't start, Isaac. I wasn't starting. She sighed, one of those exaggerated, suffering sounds. Dad focused on his mashed potatoes like they might offer him an escape plan. Then Mom's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, frowned, and muttered, Unbelievable. She looked at me. Your teacher emailed me. Apparently you've been disrespectful again. Uncooperative. Is that true? I said. I just asked why the project rules changed. Enough. You just can't stop talking back, can you? Dad rubbed his forehead. Isaac, you gotta stop making everything harder than it is. Just do what you're told. I said. I'm not doing anything wrong. And that was the exact wrong answer. Dad snapped. Then get serious or get out. The room went still. Ryan leaned back, trying not to smile. Mom said, That's enough. Go to your room. I'm done. I stood there, heart pounding. You don't even listen anymore, she said, because I'm tired of your lies. And that's when I saw it, the glint of Ryan's phone screen in the cabinet reflection. He was recording. I slammed my hand down on the counter. Not a punch, not a threat, just a noise, one last attempt to make her see me. Nobody listens, I said. My voice cracked halfway through. Ryan jumped up, sprinted upstairs, yelling. He hit me! Mom gasped and ran after him. By the time I followed, it was done, script already written, parts already cast. Ryan was on the floor of his room, clutching his shoulder. His monitor was cracked clean through the middle. A perfect prop. He grabbed me and threw it, Ryan cried. Mom turned to me like she'd been waiting for this. You did this? No. I didn't touch him. Stay right there, she said, voice low and deadly. Don't move. Dad came running. What the hell happened? Ryan sniffled. He freaked out. Mom pulled out her phone. I'm calling the police. For safety. I said, Are you serious? But she was. When the officers showed up, Ryan kept the act going, red eyes, small voice, trembling hands. They saw no injuries, just tension thick enough to choke on. One of them asked if I wanted to go somewhere else for the night. I said no. He nodded, pity in his eyes, and told Mom there wasn't much they could do. When they left, the silence was heavier than sirens. Mom said quietly, You need help. This can't go on. I didn't hurt him, I said. That's exactly what someone in denial says. Dad started packing a small bag. Where am I going? I asked. He said, Just do what your mother says. It's for the best. I didn't argue. What was the point? The next morning, she was already dressed, car keys in hand. We're taking you to a program, she said. A good one. They help families like ours. Ryan sat at the bottom of the stairs with his cereal, smirking like he'd won something. I walked past him without looking back. Mom kept talking the whole drive, calm, rehearsed. You'll thank us someday. They'll help you get better. I watched the houses slide by, perfect lawns, matching mailboxes. I thought, this isn't help. It's cleanup. When we pulled up to the building with the sign that said Ridgeway Youth Recovery, I knew exactly what I was to her. Not a sun. A stain she was finally washing out. The sign out front said Ridgeway Youth Recovery Center, Rebuilding Futures. They should have added after destroying them first. From the outside, it looked like a private school: brick walls, white trim, a tree logo that tried too hard to look hopeful. Inside, it smelled like bleach and wet carpet. A woman with a clipboard smiled the way people do when they've stopped meaning it. "Welcome to Ridgeway, Isaac," she said. Her name tag said Angela. I could tell she'd said that sentence 1,000 times. Mom filled out forms while I sat in a plastic chair, my bag at my feet. I heard her voice getting softer, sweeter, as she spoke to the intake staff, her concerned parent tone. "He's been struggling with anger. Nothing serious, but we just want to be proactive." They nodded like soldiers on autopilot. I wanted to laugh. If I'd sneeze too loud, she'd call it rage. When she finally turned to me, she said, "Be cooperative, okay? We're doing this to help you." I just stared at her. She sighed, the disappointed kind, and walked out without hugging me. That was the last time I saw sunlight for a while. Angela led me through a hallway lined with motivational posters. Own your harm. Find your peace. I wanted to peel them off the wall. She gave me a clear bag, 2 shirts with Ridgeway printed on the back, gray sweatpants, a toothbrush. Every item had a tag with my number, 47B. I wasn't Isaac anymore. Just inventory. I had to empty my pockets, hand over my phone, belt, even my shoelaces. A guard with a buzz cut watched me like I was smuggling weapons. "Standard safety procedure," he said. "Yeah, sure. Safety for everyone but the truth." They walked me through metal detectors, patted me down, and dropped me in a dorm that smelled like Lysol and misery. 2 bunks, 1 tiny window, a cracked dresser. My roommates came later: Marcus, 17, tall and sharp-eyed, and Luis, 15, small, quiet, with hands that shook even when he smiled. Marcus tossed his bag onto the top bunk. "You the new project? I guess." He grinned. "Welcome to Ridgeway High School for the morally confused." He wasn't wrong. The first night, I couldn't sleep. Lights out at 9. A guard walked the hallway every hour, flashlight beam cutting through the crack in the door. I lay there listening to the hum of the vents, trying not to think about my house, my brother, my mother's calm voice saying program. Morning started at 6 with a bell that sounded like a fire alarm. Breakfast was powdered eggs and toast so dry it squeaked. Then came group therapy, a circle of plastic chairs under a banner that read "Accountability is Freedom." The counselor, Miss Denning, talked like she was auditioning for a TED Talk. "Let's all share what brought us here," she said. The kid next to me said he stole a car. Another said drugs. Another said he disrespected boundaries. I still don't know what that meant. When it was my turn, I said, "My brother lied." She smiled too wide. "Denial is a common first step." I said, "It's not denial if it's true." She wrote something on her clipboard. "Resistant to accountability." Marcus leaned over later and whispered, "You shouldn't argue. They love that word denial. It's their golden ticket to keep you longer." "How long have you been here?" I asked. He grinned. "Too long to care." Luis didn't talk much, but I'd see him writing letters at night. He said they were for his little sister. "She still thinks I'm coming home," he told me. "Are you?" He just looked at me, eyes hollow. Nobody comes home the same. Days started blending together: group therapy, chores, worksheets about anger cycles, silence. Every week they tell us to embrace honesty. What they meant was, tell them what they already believed. I started working out just to stay sane: push-ups, laps, anything to burn through the static in my head. I hid a notebook under my mattress and wrote 1 line every night. Not diary stuff. Just facts. Day 9, counselor says lying is a defense mechanism. I said silence is too. Day 14, Marcus laughed for the first time. Day 20, Luis dreams of home every night. I don't. 2 months in, Mom visited. Ridgway staged it like a commercial. Plants on the table, cookies, fake warmth. She hugged me like someone posing for a picture. "You look calmer," she said. "I was calm before," I told her. She smiled tight. "See? That's the attitude we're fixing." After she left, I heard her laughing with the counselor down the hall. "Such progress already," she said. That night, Marcus said, "You know why they sent you here, right?" I said nothing. He said, "Because it's easier for them to say you're broken than admit they are." And for the first time, I wrote down more than one line. Sometimes the people who call you dangerous are just scared you see through them. 6 months at Ridgway felt like a decade crammed into a waiting room. The kind where nobody tells you how long you'll sit there, just that. Progress takes time. Progress meant learning their language. You didn't say, "I didn't do it." You said, "I understand how my actions affected others." You didn't say, "This is insane." You said, "I'm grateful for the structure." Everyone learned to perform eventually. It was survival. Marcus called it emotional theater. "You don't get out by telling the truth," he said, scratching his name into the underside of the bunk. "You get out by telling their truth." I tried it once, said in group that I realized my anger came from feeling unheard. Miss Denning beamed like she'd raised me herself. "Excellent insight, Isaac." I wanted to tell her it wasn't insight, it was mimicry. Instead, I just nodded. Luis didn't play along. He started skipping meals, sitting by the window whenever staff wasn't looking. One night, he whispered, "My sister stopped writing back." His voice cracked in the middle. I didn't know what to say, so I said nothing. That was the first time I learned silence could be kind. At Ridgway, silence was currency. The quiet kids got praise. The loud ones got reflection time, which was just sitting in an empty room with no clock. I learned to go blank on command. "Isaac," they'd say. "How do you feel?" "I feel calm." They loved that word. Calm. It sounded cured. When I finally got release approval, Miss Denning said, "You've made significant progress, Isaac. We're so proud of your growth." I smiled. "Thank you?" What I meant was, thank you for proving I can lie too. The morning I left, Marcus walked me to the gate. Guards didn't like that, but he didn't care. "When you get out," he said, "don't go home expecting applause. They didn't want you fixed. They wanted you quiet." I said, "You sound like you've seen it before." He laughed once soft. "Kid, I was it before." Outside, Dad was waiting in the car. He didn't get out. Just nodded like this was another business pickup. The drive home was quiet except for the GPS voice saying turn left. After a few miles, he said, "Your mom's been worried sick." "Has she?" I asked. He cleared his throat. "She did what she thought was right." "Yeah," I said, watching trees smear past the window. "She's good at that." When we pulled into the driveway, the house looked exactly the same, perfect lawn, white curtains, no sign anything had changed. That was the worst part. Inside, it smelled like lemon cleaner and staged forgiveness. Mom was in the kitchen with cookies on a tray, her "everything's fine" face perfectly in place. "Welcome home," she said, like I'd just come back from summer camp. Ryan came down the stairs grinning, taller, new haircut, new clothes. "Hey, big bro." He said it like a joke only he got. Dad gave me a quick pat on the shoulder. "We all make mistakes. What matters is learning from them." I didn't answer. My old room was gone. Fresh paint, new curtains, decorative pillows, turned into a guest room. My stuff was in boxes in the garage labeled Isaac's old things. That night we had dinner like it was Thanksgiving. Mom asked small questions about Ridgway. "Did you make friends? Do you feel calmer?" I said yes to both because the truth wouldn't fit in the room. Ryan just kept smiling. The next morning, I found a note taped to the fridge, "House Guidelines for Reintegration." Bullet points in neat handwriting. "Respect boundaries. Communicate calmly. Demonstrate trustworthiness. It wasn't signed, but it didn't have to be. I stood there reading it, and for the first time it hit me. They hadn't brought me home. They'd brought home a version of me they could manage. School was worse than Ridgeway. At least there, everyone knew they were broken. My first day back, the hallways went quiet when I walked in. Whispers trailed behind me like a shadow. That's him. The one who hit his brother. Someone laughed. Someone else said, he looks normal. I wanted to tell them that's the point. Monsters are supposed to look normal. That's how the story works when your family writes it. Teachers treated me like glass. Mr. Collins pulled me aside after class. I hope you're doing better now, he said slowly, like I'd just been released from a coma. Yeah, I said. Perfectly rehabilitated. He blinked. Good to hear. By Friday, I heard Ryan had been telling people he'd forgiven me. A classmate said, That's really mature of your brother. I laughed once, sharp and ugly. Yeah. He's all heart. Home wasn't better. Mom treated me like a guest who might startle easily. If I forgot to close a cabinet, she'd pause, inhale through her nose, and say, Let's not slip back into old habits. Dad kept up his motivational phrases. Proud of you, we're moving forward, let's keep things peaceful. None of it meant anything. Ryan liked to test the edges. He'd borrow my headphones, forget to return them, then ask if I was feeling triggered. Once, I caught him in the garage digging through my boxes. Just looking for my old stuff, he said, holding one of my notebooks. When he left, a page was torn out. I didn't react. That was my new trick. Silence. It made them nervous. After 2 weeks, I found a part-time job at an auto shop. Rick, the owner, was in his 40s, bald, spoke like every word cost money. He said, You work, you get paid. You don't, you're gone. That was fine by me. Machines didn't lie. They just broke honestly. The shop became my new language. Wrenches clicking, engines rumbling. Rick taught me how to listen to problems without people involved. Most things tell you what's wrong, he said. You just gotta stop talking long enough to hear it. He didn't ask about my past. Didn't care. He paid cash every Friday and said, Good job, which meant more than anything I'd heard at home in years. Back at the house, Mom tried to act supportive. It's nice to see you working, she'd say, as if I'd joined a monastery. Ryan called the shop. Your little therapy job. One night, I came home late. They were in the living room watching a sitcom. Ryan muted the TV and said, Working hard? Guess structure really does help. Mom smiled. See? Positive environments create change. I went upstairs without answering. The next day, I came home early and heard Ryan in his room on the phone. His voice carried down the hall. He's calm now because they fixed him, he said, laughing. Yeah, it worked. He barely talks. It's like he's a robot now. He paused. Mom says I'm the reason things are better. Guess I saved the family. I stood there listening, and for the first time since Ridgeway, I felt something colder than anger. Not hate. Just clarity. They didn't fix me. They broke me in the right shape for them. That night, I opened a teen checking account at the credit union near the shop. Deposited my first paycheck. Didn't tell anyone. I didn't know what I was saving for, maybe a car, maybe a way out, but it felt good knowing something finally belonged to me. Each receipt folded in my wallet felt like a tiny piece of freedom. Ryan's games got worse after that. At first, it was small stuff, missing chargers, torn notebooks, little provocations. Then I started noticing money gone from Mom's purse, a missing watch from the counter. I didn't care until she started looking at me again like she used to, tight jaw, narrowed eyes, rehearsing disappointment. I know you've been trying, she said one night, voice syrup-sweet but sharp at the edges. But old habits don't vanish overnight. I looked up from my plate. You think I stole $20? I didn't say that. She sighed. which meant she absolutely did. Ryan walked by eating chips, pretending not to listen. There was a smirk hiding in his cheek. The next morning, she found her watch gone. That night, Ryan posted an Instagram story. When toxic people play the victim, it's just sad. He tagged a quote about recovery not being real for everyone. Some kids from school reshared it. I didn't respond. He liked that silence. At breakfast, he said, "You going to do that quiet, angry thing again?" I just grabbed my bag and left for work. The shop was the only place that felt real. Rick didn't care about rumors or reputations. He'd hand me a socket wrench and say, "Family'll make you crazy if you let them." One afternoon, while we were changing a customer's brake pads, I asked, "You ever feel like no matter what you do, people see what they want?" Rick grunted. "All the time. That's why I work with metal. It breaks honest." He looked up at me. "They think they fixed you, huh?" I nodded. He snorted. "They just hate that you stopped giving them the reaction they wanted." It stuck with me. At home, the walls were starting to crack. Ryan got caught plagiarizing an essay at school. Mom said he was under stress from family trauma. When I came home that night, she was crying at the kitchen table. Ryan had taken her debit card and disappeared for hours. When he came back, he said he needed space and slammed his door. She turned to me, tears barely hanging on. "Can't you try to be supportive? He's still healing from what happened with you," I said quietly. "He's not healing. He's managing you." Her eyes turned glassy and cold. "Don't project your issues onto him." I stopped trying. 2 days later, she showed up at the auto shop. Rick called me from the front. "You better come out here, kid." She was standing by the counter, red-faced, gripping her purse like she wanted to hit something. "You need to stop enabling my son," she said to Rick. "He's supposed to be in recovery, not hiding in garages." Rick wiped his hands on a rag, calm as a storm before thunder. "He's working. Harder than most grown men I know." "You don't understand," she snapped. "He has violent tendencies. He's manipulating you." Rick took one slow step forward. "Ma'am, the only person yelling here is you. My shop's for work, not whatever this is." Her mouth opened, then closed, her face trembling with fury. "You'll regret this," she hissed. Rick pointed toward the door. "Then you can take that energy somewhere else." She left in silence. That night, the lights were off when I came home. She stood in the dining room like a ghost waiting for her cue. "How dare you humiliate me like that?" she said. "You showed up at my job," I said. "You made me look insane in front of a stranger," I said. "You didn't need my help for that." Her hand twitched. Her voice cracked. "You think you're better than us? You think that place made you fixed while the rest of us suffer?" Ryan came down the stairs, calm as a priest. "Mom, don't." "He's doing that thing again. You're scaring her, Isaac." That was it. I turned to him. "You started all of this." Mom stepped between us. "Don't you raise your voice." "I'm not," I said. Ryan smirked. "See? He's doing it again." Then came the slap. Not hard. Just enough to say you're still under my control. She froze, eyes wide, hand trembling. Ryan looked pleased. I straightened up. "You need help more than I ever did." Dad walked in from the hallway, half asleep, half useless. He looked at all of us, sighed, and walked into the kitchen without a word. I went upstairs, packed a small bag, clothes, wallet, my tools from the shop. Left a note on the table that said only, "I'm not angry. Just done." When I walked out, she was still crying silently at the table. Ryan leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching me go. I didn't say a word. Outside, the night air was cool and clean. For the first time in years, I could breathe. The room above Rick's garage wasn't much, a single window, the smell of oil in the walls, a space heater that buzzed like it was whispering secrets. But it was mine. Rick didn't ask questions when I told him I needed a place. He just said, As long as you pay rent and don't burn the place down, you're good. That was his version of trust. I started sleeping better, working longer, finished my GED at night, took classes at the community center. Rick helped me open a business account under my name, Isaac Reed Auto Repair. The letters looked strange printed on a checkbook, like someone else's name that I'd borrowed and made real. One night, I started writing again, not therapy journals, just facts. I posted them online anonymously, under a name I made up, The NSD Fixed. The first post read, "They said I needed help. What I needed was someone to listen before deciding who I was." I didn't think anyone would care. But the next morning, my inbox was full. People said they'd been to Ridgeway, or places just like it. Same counselors, same slogans, same fake family healing programs. Someone sent me a photo of the Ridgeway dorms. Another LinkedIn article. Private youth rehab under investigation for unethical practices. Same logo. Same staff names. Different city, different year. They just kept rebranding. Rick found me still typing late one evening, laptop glowing in the dark corner of the garage. "You writing a book or starting a war?" he asked. "Maybe both," he grunted. "Good. Just make sure you win something from it." A week later, one of my posts got reposted on a big forum. It blew up overnight, hundreds of comments, people connecting dots, parents realizing their kids had been through the same place. The local news picked it up. The headline read, "Ridgeway Youth Recovery, Reform or Rebrand." I didn't give interviews. Didn't post names. Didn't need to. The truth didn't require my face anymore. It spoke loud enough. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. "Do you have any idea what you're doing?" It was Mom. Her voice was trembling with that familiar mix of guilt and fury. "You're ruining this family," I said. "By telling the truth? You're making us look insane. Ryan is suffering because of you. You're dragging his name through the mud." "He dragged mine first," I said quietly. "You've always wanted attention, haven't you? Well, now you've got it." I hung up. A month later, Dad called. His voice was small, tired. "Can we talk?" "About what?" "I saw Ryan break that monitor," he said. "The night you were sent away." I didn't say anything. I thought it would keep the peace. I leaned against the wall, phone pressed to my ear. "You let them send me away to keep the peace." He didn't answer. "Say it," I said. "I'm sorry." I hit record. "Say it again." "I'm sorry." I stopped recording. "I don't need your guilt," I said and hung up. I never posted it. I didn't need to. The next week, Ryan got caught shoplifting from a convenience store. Security footage, police report, everything. Mom showed up at the station, screaming it was a misunderstanding. The local paper covered it. Rick slid the article across the counter the next morning. "Guess karma finally found its brakes," he said. I didn't smile. But something inside me unclenched. For the first time, the truth wasn't mine to prove. It was theirs to face. 2 years passed. I was 20 now, running my own corner of the shop. Rick had semi-retired, leaving most of the work, and the customers, to me. The sign out front read Reed Auto Repair. It still felt unreal seeing my name on metal. I rented a small apartment over a bakery across town. It smelled like coffee and sugar in the mornings, motor oil and sweat at night. I worked 6 days a week, kept to myself, fixed what was broken. Sometimes Rick would stop by, drop off coffee, and say, "You're doing fine, kid." That was his way of saying he was proud. I heard about my family in fragments, customers gossiping, old neighbors updating Rick. Mom had started showing up at church again, telling people she'd been betrayed by her own. Ryan was living with relatives upstate, in and out of therapy. Dad had moved out, apparently, finding himself. They'd all fractured exactly the way they tried to make me break. Then, one quiet morning, I got a letter. Handwritten, my dad's looping script on the envelope. I opened it halfway, then stopped. Clara's having a breakdown. Ryan's in therapy. I'm sorry for what we did to you. I should have stopped it. I folded the letter once and dropped it into a drawer without finishing it. There was nothing left to fix. A few months later, I was cleaning up the shop after closing when someone knocked on the garage door. It was Ryan. He looked wrecked, same hoodie, torn and dirty, eyes red, voice hoarse. Mom kicked me out, he said. Why? She lost it. Said I embarrassed her. Said I turned out just like you. He gave a dry laugh that turned into a cough. Guess she finally ran out of people to blame. He sat on a stool, shaking. I handed him a bottle of water. After a long pause, he said, I lied, Isaac. That night. The bruise. The monitor. All of it. I made it up. I wanted her to look at me. The bruise was from my bike. I didn't think they'd actually send you away. I didn't say anything. Just handed him another bottle. He rubbed his face. I didn't think it'd go that far. You did, I said quietly. You just didn't care. He started crying, a real, broken sound. When he could finally talk again, he said, I told her everything. I didn't ask what she said. I already knew. He left a few minutes later, walking down the street with his shoulders slumped. I watched until he disappeared. Then I went back inside, locked the door, and went back to work. A week later, I got a text from an unknown number. It read, I told her everything. I'm sorry. No name, but I didn't need one. I didn't reply. Forgiveness wasn't the point anymore. Peace was. The next morning, I stood in the sunlight outside the shop, leaning on the hood of an old truck I'd been rebuilding. The metal was scarred and uneven, but it ran better than ever. I pulled the same wrench from my pocket, the one Rick gave me when I was 16. The handle was worn smooth, edges dulled from years of use. It caught the light and threw a sharp line across the ground. Everything I'd fixed had one thing in common. Nothing ever went back exactly the way it was. You could rebuild it, make it work again, but the fracture always remained, silent, invisible, part of the structure now. That's not failure. That's life. I looked back at the open garage door, the sound of tools clinking, engines humming. And for the first time, I realized something simple. Some things don't get fixed. They just stop hurting. My name's Isaac Reed. And I'm finally free.